It was a cold evening, and the small apartment felt emptier than ever. The soft hum of the old heater was the only sound, mixing with the faint ticking of the clock. He had just finished washing the dishes, but the sink was already filling with crumbs and leftover pasta from the twins' dinner. They had barely eaten anything, and he could see the worry in their little eyes when he served the food. They were only 6 years old, full of energy and laughter, but tonight that spark seemed dimmed. He sank into the worn-out sofa, running a hand through his hair. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him harder than it had in weeks. His job as a delivery driver barely covered the rent and bills, and some weeks even that wasn't enough. The twins' school supplies, their medical checkups, the groceries, they all added up. He felt the familiar knot in his stomach that came with knowing he couldn't provide everything he wanted for them. But he reminded himself, as he always did, that he was doing his best. That had to be enough. Tonight was different, though. He had just received another letter for an overdue medical bill. One of the twins had been coughing for days, and the doctor had insisted on a checkup. The bill was higher than he had anticipated, and he could already hear the landlord's voice in his mind, asking why the rent was late again. He had no savings, no family nearby, and no friends he could turn to. For a moment, he felt completely alone. He picked up his phone, scrolling through the contacts absent-mindedly. He wasn't sure why he even kept this number saved. He had typed it by mistake a few months back when trying to contact a friend. But tonight, in his desperation, he stared at the number and typed out a message without thinking much. "Hi, I know this might seem strange, but I need some help. My daughters, they're twins, and I can't pay for their doctor's visit. Could you help me with some money?" He stared at the screen, panic rising. The number didn't belong to a friend. It belonged to a Navy admiral, someone important, someone he had never met. He had no idea why he had that number saved, and now he had sent a message that might seem completely inappropriate. His thumb hovered over the send button, but the message was already sent. There was no taking it back. His heart raced. What if the Admiral was angry? What if he reported him, or worse, mocked him? He quickly considered deleting the message, but the words were already out there. There was no undoing the mistake. He put the phone down and rubbed his eyes. The room seemed smaller, the walls closing in. He wanted to disappear, to shrink into the sofa and hide from the embarrassment of his actions. He glanced over at the twins, who were quietly coloring at the small table by the window. They were laughing softly at something they had drawn, completely unaware of the storm brewing in his mind. He couldn't let them see him break down. They depended on him, and no matter how hard things got, he had to stay strong for them. Memories of the past few months played in his mind like a broken record. The nights spent worrying about bills, the mornings rushing to get them ready for school, the endless cycle of work and chores. It had all been exhausting. He remembered their mother, who had passed away 2 years ago. She had always been the one to calm him down when things felt impossible. Her absence was felt more tonight than ever. He tried to focus on the positives, on the laughter of his daughters, the small victories like making it through a week without missing a meal. But the weight of reality kept pressing in. He sighed and stood up, pacing the small living room. He had always been proud of his independence, of handling things on his own, but tonight, pride felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. Minutes passed, and the silence of the apartment was deafening. He tried to distract himself by cleaning, but each chore reminded him of what he couldn't do. He had no extra money, no family support, and no easy way out. The message he sent felt like a gamble, a reckless move born out of desperation, but he didn't know what else to do. Finally, he returned to the sofa and sat down, staring at the phone. He imagined the possible replies: anger, silence, ridicule. He imagined being scolded for overstepping boundaries, for daring to ask someone he didn't know for help. His stomach twisted at the thought. He felt a mix of shame and fear, emotions he wasn't used to dealing with. But alongside the fear, there was a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the person on the other end would understand. Maybe they had children of their own, or had faced hardships that made them compassionate. He tried to hold on to that tiny sliver of possibility, even though it seemed almost impossible. As the night wore on, he watched his daughters yawn and stretch, their tiny bodies curling up under the blankets. He kissed their foreheads gently, whispering promises that he hoped he could keep. Promises of meals, safety, and a future where they wouldn't have to worry. He wondered if he had made a mistake, but in his heart, he knew he had done what any parent would do when faced with desperation. He had reached out, even to a stranger, because his children came first. Hours passed, and sleep seemed distant. He couldn't stop thinking about the message, about the possibility of a reply. Every sound in the apartment made him jump: the creak of the radiator, the distant traffic outside, even the soft breathing of the twins. His mind raced with scenarios, both hopeful and terrifying. Finally, exhaustion won, and he fell into a restless sleep on the sofa, the phone clutched loosely in his hand. Dreams of numbers, bills, and pleading eyes swirled together, a chaotic mix of fear and hope. Somewhere deep inside, he held on to the thought that maybe, just maybe, this mistake could turn into something good. But for now, he could only wait, holding on to the hope that someone, somewhere, might see his sincerity and respond. The morning sunlight crept slowly through the blinds, painting thin lines across the small apartment. He had barely slept, tossing and turning on the sofa, wondering if the message he sent the night before would ever be answered. Every time his phone vibrated or buzzed, his heart jumped. He couldn't stop imagining the reply, both hopeful and nervous, afraid it might be the last time he ever heard from that number. He brewed a cup of coffee, strong and bitter, the aroma filling the tiny kitchen. The twins were still asleep, their small chests rising and falling with each breath. He watched them for a while, feeling a mixture of love and guilt. He wished he could provide everything for them, wished he could erase the hardships they had faced. But life had been unkind, and he had learned to do his best even when the world seemed to push him down. Finally, a notification popped up on his phone. He froze, his hand trembling slightly as he unlocked the screen. It was a message from the number he had sent the play to. His heart raced, and he took a deep breath before opening it. "Good morning," it read. "I received your message. Can you tell me more about your situation?" He blinked, almost dropping the phone. He hadn't expected a reply, let alone a calm, polite one. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure how to explain everything in words that would make sense to a stranger. He took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, and began typing. He wrote about the twins, their favorite games, their love for coloring and bedtime stories. He wrote about the long nights, the empty fridge, and the bills piling up. He wrote honestly, without exaggeration, because he knew that honesty was all he had. He explained that he worked hard, but sometimes it wasn't enough. He explained that he was not asking for charity, but for help just this once, so he could make sure his daughters had what they needed. When he sent the message, he felt a strange mix of fear and relief. Fear because he had revealed so much to a stranger, relief because he had finally spoken the truth. He paced the small living room, trying to calm his racing thoughts. Every creak of the floorboards, every passing car outside, made him jump. His mind kept replaying possible responses, both good and bad. A few hours later, his phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer, thoughtful, and gentle. "I understand," it read. "I want to know how I can help. Can we talk? I need to know a little more about your daily life, how you manage everything, and how you care for your daughters. This is not just about money. I want to understand your situation fully." He stared at the screen, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. The Admiral, someone so important, someone he had only known through news and stories, was willing to listen. He could hardly believe it. Slowly, he typed back, describing his day-to-day life, how he woke early to get the twins ready, how he balanced work and school, and how he tried to make sure they always felt loved and safe. He wrote about the nights he spent helping with homework, reading stories, and singing lullabies. He wrote about the small joys they shared, the laughter over spilled milk, and the pride he felt when they learned something new. He shared his fears too, his worries about not being able to provide, and the loneliness he felt since their mother had passed away. It was all there in black and white, unfiltered and raw. As he sent the message, he realized he hadn't expected the conversation to be so personal, so human. He felt a connection forming, strange and unexpected, with someone he had never met. The Admiral didn't just want to help financially. He wanted to understand, to listen, and to see the man behind the desperate plea. The day passed slowly. He tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept returning to the messages. Every so often, his phone would buzz, and he would eagerly check for a reply. The twins came home from school, their little faces brightening the room. They ran to him with stories about their day, about friends, and about drawings they had made. He hugged them tightly, feeling a renewed sense of determination. He wanted to be strong for them, no matter what. Later that evening, another message appeared. This one surprised him even more. "I can help with the immediate bills. But I want you to know, this is not just about paying for today. I want to help you find a way to make things more stable. Can we meet? I think it's important we talk in person, so I can understand and support you better." His heart pounded. A meeting? The thought was both exciting and terrifying. He had never met anyone like this before, someone so willing to step into his chaotic life and offer support without judgment. The Admiral wanted to see him, to understand, and possibly help in a way that could change everything. He stared at the message for a long time, then looked at the twins playing quietly in the corner. He felt a mix of gratitude and anxiety. Meeting someone important could be intimidating, but he realized that this could be a turning point, a chance to give his daughters a better future. He took a deep breath and typed back a simple message, agreeing to meet and promising to be honest and open. That night, he sat with the twins, telling them small stories and tucking them into bed. He didn't mention the Admiral or the messages. He didn't want to overwhelm them with hope that might be too big for their little hearts to carry. Instead, he focused on what he could control, being present, being loving, and holding them close. After the twins fell asleep, he sat alone in the quiet apartment, thinking about the upcoming meeting. Questions swirled in his mind. How would he explain his life fully? Would he appear strong enough, capable enough to earn this trust? He worried about being judged, about not measuring up, but slowly he realized that honesty was his greatest strength. He had nothing to hide and everything to share. Sleep came later than usual, but when it did, it brought a restless peace. He dreamed of conversations, of kind faces, and of possibilities he had never dared imagine. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a glimmer of hope, fragile yet persistent. He knew that tomorrow would bring a new chapter, one that could change everything for him and his daughters. And for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. The day of the meeting arrived, and the small apartment felt unusually quiet. The twins were at school, leaving him alone with his thoughts. He had spent the morning pacing, wondering how the meeting would go. His clothes were simple, a clean shirt and warm jeans, nothing fancy. But he hoped his honesty and presence would speak louder than appearances. He brewed a cup of coffee and sat by the window, staring at the city outside, trying to calm the nervous energy coursing through him. He thought about the Admiral, someone who had a life far removed from his own struggles. The idea of meeting a person of such rank and responsibility was intimidating. He wondered if the Admiral would judge him, if his tired eyes and rough hands would make him seem less capable. But at the same time, he reminded himself that he had nothing to hide. He was a father, doing everything he could to give his daughters the life they deserved. When the time came, he took a deep breath, grabbed his coat, and stepped out into the crisp air. Every step felt heavy with anticipation. The city streets were bustling, but he felt in a bubble, his mind only on the meeting ahead. He arrived at the designated place, a quiet cafe suggested by the Admiral, and paused outside. He could see a figure waiting inside, calm and poised, and recognized immediately that it was the Admiral Dot as he walked in. The Admiral stood and extended a hand with a warm, reassuring smile. "Thank you for coming," the Admiral said, his voice steady but kind. He felt a moment of relief. This was not going to be a lecture or a judgment. It was a conversation, a chance to share his life openly. He shook the Admiral's hand, feeling the firmness and confidence in the grip, yet sensing the humanity beneath the uniform. They sat down at a small table near the window. The sun streamed in, casting a gentle glow over their conversation. The Admiral began by asking simple questions about his daily life, not in a way that felt intrusive, but with genuine interest. How did he manage work and parenting? What challenges did he face? How did he ensure his daughters felt safe and loved? Each question was an invitation to share, and he responded honestly, describing the long hours, the struggles, and the small victories that made his heart full. The Admiral listened carefully, nodding and asking follow-up questions, showing that he understood the weight of responsibility he carried. He didn't offer quick solutions or empty sympathy. Instead, he focused on understanding, on seeing the man behind the struggle. This approach surprised him. He had expected judgment, maybe a lecture about taking responsibility, but instead, he felt seen and respected. At one point, the Admiral paused and looked at him seriously. "I want to know why you keep going, even when it's so hard," the Admiral said. "What keeps you moving forward for your daughters?" He took a deep breath, feeling the words rise from his chest. "Love," he said simply. "I don't want them to feel the fear and uncertainty I feel. I want them to grow up knowing they are safe, loved, and valued. No matter what, they come first." The Admiral's expression softened, and he nodded. "That's exactly why I wanted to meet you. I've seen a lot in my life, and I know the strength it takes to keep going when everything seems against you. You have that strength, and it shows in your dedication." For the first time, he felt a sense of pride he hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't about money or status or recognition. It was about being acknowledged for his resilience and love. The Admiral's words felt like validation, a reminder that his efforts mattered, even if the world often overlooked them. The conversation shifted then to practical matters. The Admiral asked about the immediate needs of the twins and his own struggles with bills and work. He listened intently, not rushing, and together they discussed ways to address the urgent needs first. The Admiral offered to help cover the medical bills and suggested resources and programs that could provide long-term support. It wasn't charity. It was a plan, a way to build stability for him and his daughters. He felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. This was more than he had hoped for. But the Admiral wasn't done. He wanted to understand how he could improve his life overall, how he could create a future where emergencies like this wouldn't feel insurmountable. He asked about skills, education, and opportunities for growth. For a moment, he realized that this meeting was not just about solving a problem. It was about creating a path forward. The Admiral's questions were not easy. They required honesty and reflection, pushing him to consider his own habits and decisions. But it also felt empowering. He was no longer trapped by desperation. He was being offered guidance, insight, and a chance to make better choices for himself and his daughters. As the meeting drew to a close, the Admiral offered a hand to shake once more. "I believe in you," the Admiral said. "I see a father doing everything he can, and I want to support that. You're not alone in this. You have the strength, and now you have resources and guidance too." Walking back to his apartment, he felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, gratitude, and cautious hope. The world had felt heavy and isolating just days before, but now he felt a connection, a support system he hadn't known he could rely on. He thought about the twins and how he would tell them, in small ways, that things were going to get better. He imagined their laughter returning to its full brightness, their worries eased by the stability he now had a chance to build. That night, he tucked the twins into bed, holding them a little longer than usual. He didn't need to explain everything, just reassured them that he loved them and that things were going to be okay. He felt the weight of fear and uncertainty lift slightly, replaced by a quiet determination to make the most of this opportunity. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to imagine a future where he could breathe a little easier, where his daughters could grow up feeling secure, loved, and happy. The day had been more than a meeting. It had been a turning point. He had shared his truth, faced judgment and expectation, and been met with understanding and guidance. The Admiral's approach had not been to give handouts, but to see, understand, and help him create a better life. And that, he realized, was worth more than anything money could buy. After the meeting, he returned to his apartment with a mix of exhaustion and excitement. The sun had dipped low, painting the walls in a warm glow. The twins were still awake, waiting for him with their usual energy and curiosity. They ran to him as he entered, hugging his legs tightly, their little voices chattering about their day. He felt a wave of love and protectiveness wash over him. This meeting wasn't just a conversation. It was a turning point for them all. He took a moment to sit with them on the worn-out sofa, listening to their stories, laughing at their silly jokes, and marveling at their creativity. The weight of the day was heavy, but the warmth of their presence made it lighter. He realized that while the Admiral's help was important, the true motivation for everything he did was here, in these moments with his daughters. Later, when the twins were finally asleep, he sat alone in the quiet apartment, thinking about what had happened. The Admiral had not only listened and understood, but he had also taken concrete steps to help. He had covered the immediate medical bills and connected him to community programs that could provide ongoing support. But more than that, he had offered guidance, encouragement, and belief in his ability to manage and improve his life. It was more than financial assistance. It was a lifeline and a mentor. Over the next few days, he followed the advice and connections provided by the Admiral. He contacted local resources for parents, signed up for workshops to improve his skills, and even explored opportunities for better paying work that could offer stability. Each step he took felt like a small victory, a movement toward a future that had once seemed impossible. He could feel the burden on his shoulders lighten, not entirely gone, but more manageable. The twins noticed a change in him too. His smiles were a little brighter, his patience a little stronger, and he had more energy to play with them after work. He read to them at bedtime, helped with their homework, and even found time to teach them small life lessons about kindness, responsibility, and hope. He wanted them to grow up knowing that while life could be hard, there were people willing to help, and that asking for help when needed was not a weakness. One afternoon, he received another message from the Admiral. It was simple but powerful. "I want to meet the girls when you are ready. I've been watching your efforts and the way you care for them. I believe they are as strong and resilient as you are. His heart swelled with emotion. The Admiral had seen them through his stories, through his words, but now he wanted to meet them. He knew his daughters would adore someone who had shown such care and understanding for their father. He spent the next day preparing for the meeting, thinking about how to introduce his daughters and how to explain the Admiral's presence in a way that was meaningful to them. When the day arrived, he brought the twins to a quiet park near their apartment. They ran ahead, curious and full of excitement. The Admiral was waiting with a gentle smile, kneeling to greet them at their level. The girls were shy at first, but the Admiral's warmth and friendly demeanor quickly put them at ease. He knelt down to their height, asking about their favorite games, their school, and their drawings. The twins laughed and shared, feeling an immediate connection. He watched silently, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude and relief. This was not just about money or assistance. It was about someone caring for his family, someone showing that kindness and understanding existed in a world that often seemed cold and indifferent. The Admiral didn't just offer support. He became a part of their lives, a reminder that there were people who could be trusted, people who could guide and uplift without judgment. The afternoon passed quickly with laughter, stories, and games. He noticed how the twins' spirits lifted, how their smiles became brighter, and how their trust in him and in others grew. The Admiral observed quietly, occasionally joining in, always encouraging, never overwhelming. It was a rare, beautiful balance that brought a sense of normalcy and joy to their lives. As the sun began to set, they sat together on a bench, watching the golden light reflect off the trees and water. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a beginning. The Admiral had shown him that help could come in unexpected ways, that support didn't have to diminish dignity, and that sometimes reaching out, even by mistake, could lead to extraordinary kindness. Walking home that evening, he held the twins' hands tightly, feeling their warmth and hearing their excited chatter about the day. He felt a renewed determination to make the most of this opportunity, to ensure that his daughters grew up with stability, love, and hope. He knew challenges would still come, but for the first time in a long while, he felt equipped to face them. Back at the apartment, he tucked the twins into bed, their eyes heavy with sleep, but shining with happiness. He whispered promises of a better future, small but sincere, and for once, he felt confident he could keep them. He realized that the Admiral's kindness was not just about helping with bills, it was about showing belief in his abilities, in his resilience, and in his unwavering dedication as a father. That night, he sat quietly, reflecting on the journey so far. From a desperate text sent in panic to a meeting that offered hope, guidance, and connection, his life had shifted in ways he hadn't imagined possible. He knew there were still hurdles ahead, but with the support, understanding, and mentorship he had received, he felt ready to face them. And as he drifted to sleep, he carried with him a deep sense of gratitude, hope, and the knowledge that sometimes life's mistakes could lead to the most extraordinary miracles. Weeks passed since the first meeting with the Admiral, and life began to feel a little lighter. The bills that had once seemed insurmountable were taken care of, and he had found ways to secure more stable work. The community programs and resources the Admiral had introduced had helped him learn new skills and manage his responsibilities more effectively. Each day brought small victories, and each victory made him feel more confident in his ability to provide for the twins. The twins thrived as well. They laughed more freely, slept more soundly, and showed the kind of curiosity and energy that every child deserved. He made a point to spend time with them each day, whether reading bedtime stories, helping with schoolwork, or just playing in the small park near their apartment. Their happiness became a reflection of his own progress, a constant reminder that the struggles he had faced were not wasted. The Admiral stayed in touch, checking in periodically and offering guidance when needed. But it was not just about advice or assistance. It was about encouragement and belief in his potential. The Admiral had shown him that asking for help was not a weakness, that even those who appeared strong and independent sometimes needed support. It was a lesson he would carry with him for life. One afternoon, as he was helping the twins with a science project, he received a message from the Admiral. It was simple, but it made his heart race. "I'm proud of you. Keep going. You're doing right by them, and it shows." He smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't just about the words. It was about the recognition, the validation, and the belief that he could continue to overcome obstacles. He shared the message with the twins, who clapped their hands and cheered, their innocent joy filling the apartment with light. Over time, he started planning for the future. He looked into opportunities for better-paying work, and even considered small ways to secure a home that could feel more permanent. The Admiral had emphasized planning and stability, and he had taken that advice to heart. He wanted to build a life for his daughters that was more than just survival. He wanted it to be full of opportunity, learning, and happiness. There were challenges along the way, of course. Some weeks were harder than others, with unexpected expenses or long hours that left him exhausted. But he faced these challenges differently now. He had tools, support, and the knowledge that he was not alone. Even in difficult moments, he reminded himself that he had come far and that he could handle what came next. One weekend, he decided to take the twins to the park where they had first met the Admiral. They ran ahead, giggling and playing, while he watched, feeling a sense of peace. The lessons he had learned, the guidance he had received, and the support he had been given had created a foundation for a better life. He realized that it was not just the financial help that mattered. It was the belief in his abilities, the recognition of his dedication, and the reminder that kindness existed even in unexpected places. He thought about the day he had sent that desperate text, the fear and shame he had felt, and the uncertainty that had gripped him. What had seemed like a mistake had turned into a series of events that changed his life completely. It was a lesson in humility, hope, and the unexpected ways the world could respond when someone reached out. At home, he made a point to teach the twins about kindness and empathy. He shared small stories about the Admiral's help without focusing on money, emphasizing the importance of honesty, responsibility, and compassion. The twins absorbed these lessons naturally, learning that seeking help was acceptable and that kindness could create ripples in the lives of others. One evening, as he tucked the twins into bed, he paused to reflect on everything that had happened. From a desperate text to a meeting that offered hope and guidance, to ongoing support that had allowed him to stabilize their lives, he had experienced a transformation. He realized that life would always have challenges, but it was how he faced them and sought support that made all the difference. As he closed the bedroom door, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the Admiral's kindness, yes, but also for his own resilience and determination. He had faced despair and fear, yet he had persisted, and that persistence had led to change. He knew there would be more obstacles ahead, but he now had the confidence, resources, and belief to face them. Lying down that night, he felt a calm settle over him. The apartment was quiet, the twins were asleep, and for the first time in a long time, he felt that everything would be okay. He had learned that asking for help was not weakness, that honesty could lead to understanding, and that even the smallest acts of courage could open doors to new possibilities. In the following months, he continued to build on the foundation that had been set. He saved money, explored opportunities for further education and work, and strengthened the bond with his daughters. The Admiral remained a guiding presence, a mentor, and a reminder that life could change when people acted with understanding and compassion. Eventually, he looked back at the journey, realizing how far he had come. What had begun as a simple, desperate message had grown into a story of hope, transformation, and the power of human connection. The twins thrived, the home was more secure, and he felt a confidence and peace that had seemed impossible before. He knew that life would continue to have challenges, but he was ready for them. He had learned that strength was not only in endurance, but also in the courage to seek help when needed. And as he watched his daughters sleep peacefully, he whispered a quiet promise to himself that he would continue to protect, provide for, and nurture them, carrying forward the lessons of compassion, resilience, and hope that had changed their lives forever.